Live, where news comes first. This is ABC-7 Xtra.
Good evening. Welcome to ABC-7 Extra. Glad you're with us today. I'm Maria Garcia. The city of El Paso is embarking on a huge mission, a mission voters trusted it with. The biggest public project it's really ever embarked upon, that $180 million arena downtown. And this is coming at a time when the city's engineering department, now called Capital Improvements, by many accounts, has revealed it's alarmingly broken, you could say, until recently lacking leadership and perceived as ineffective. Just this week, a city-commissioned outside report showed the city may have to hire outside companies to execute many of the big projects approved by voters and guide the Capital Improvements Department through these projects, from the arena to aquatic facilities. And also this week, the city solidifying, as we told you, that the 100-year-old San Jacinto Plaza will not be ready for the much-anticipated holiday parade for the third year in a row. The project right now about a year behind schedule. Here to talk about all of this and more, City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. You can email us your comments and questions now to ABC7Xtra at KVIA.com. You can also reach us by phone at 496-1775. On Twitter, use the hashtag ABC7Extra. And joining us now is El Paso City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, this is the second time you're on the program, and we really appreciate you coming on to talk about these issues.
You're very welcome.
So I want to start with the Fraze and Nichols report released this week. It was an analysis by an outside company to try to explore what the root of the problem has been with the rocky road that the engineering department, now called Capital Improvements, has faced with projects. And it essentially found that its workload has increased immensely. I mean, voters added about $500 million worth of projects to the engineering department with the quality of life bond, and then also, more than $200 million worth of street infrastructure projects, and yet the department only grew by a handful of employees. So the report found that it just could not keep up with the workload. So now it looks like the city's going to have to hire firms to guide the department, as we've been saying, for these quality of life bond projects. And so the concern here is, if the city's going to have to hire outside help to execute these projects, that's going to cost money. Does that mean taxpayers will not get the best bang for their buck?
Well, they most definitely will get the best bang for their buck. Most assuredly they will. And that's the reason why I think the study was very important. I want to go back to 2012, whenever the bond package was passed. What I've seen in other places is it takes about 12 to 14 months to put a good package together for capital improvements, and you have to do benchmarking. You have to make sure you take into account the inflationary costs, and that you budget the operations and maintenance costs as well. Back in the summer of 2014, when I was hired, I talked to council about the bond funding plan, and how it would take more like 12 to 15 years instead of the 10 that they thought for the capital projects, their quality of life. And then the streets projects, for some reason they thought it was 7 years, really more of a 10 to 12-year window in order for you to be able to absorb those additional costs.
So you think the process for the quality of life bond projects, do you think it was rushed and overambitious?
I think that just when I looked at the cost of it and how to implement, I was sharing with council last summer how long it would take in order to absorb those costs on an annual basis, ongoing basis. Then in the fall, I had wanted to bring in some outside firms to look at the department as a whole, and I know that the council really wanted us to give everyone an opportunity. I think we've given the department ample opportunity to really work on the different aspects of running the department. I think that the review that was recently done reinforced a lot of the things that we were talking about back in the fall with the City Council as it relates to our engineering department. But I do want to say, though, that the department and the projects that have been on time, we've been able to show that through the quarterly capital projects report that we asked them to do. We now have that. It's on our website. I think what that revealed is more accountability. It gave them an opportunity to kind of show what they've been doing. We've got a handful of projects that are obviously not on time, and those are the ones that we're talking the most about. But there's several projects that are on time and have come in under budget, and I do want to highlight that. So when we talk about how the San Jacinto project's not on time, and we talk about a couple of others that aren't on time, there's reasons for that, and I think we've explained what those reasons are. San Jacinto, for example, was supposed to be completed May of 2015, and I know there's been reports that say it's over a year late, and that's not accurate. I mean,
well, it was pushed back to May, but initially, from our reporting in our archives, it shows that initially the city said close to February or January, and then it got pushed back to the spring and then to May. So May wasn't the initial deadline.
I do think that the department, and this is a good example, your point that you're making, a lot of times are asked, when is something going to be done on time, and they rush to give an answer without looking at the actual deadline of when that project is supposed to be finished. So as of May of 2015, we are charging liquidated damages to the contractor, and so those are $1,000 a day. And at that particular time, when it is completed, and the contractor tells us it's November 27th, we'll see if they meet that deadline, but liquidated damages will be assessed up until that date.
I want to get to San Jacinto Plaza in just a little bit, but I want to make sure we hash out this issue with capital improvements. So the bottom line is, it looks like the city did not have the foresight to prepare one of its vital assets, to prepare one of its vital departments for an influx of work. And it looks like the city's paying the consequences, and thus, you know, the taxpayers are paying the consequences for that. That's what the bottom line looks like.
Well, I think you made a good point with respect to utilizing outside consultants, and I think a lot of people have not heard us correctly when we talk about utilizing outside experts. Those outside experts means outside the city, and we have a lot of engineers and a lot of architects that are here locally that have been helping us manage these projects. And where we've got them involved with the project, we've had some success with it. And so the report that was given by Friesen Nichols to the council and to the media, that report revealed that replicating that more will have more success.
But for taxpayers who say, shouldn't the engineering or the capital improvements department be able to handle this, or isn't it alarming that the engineering department needs so much outside help from private companies?
Well, I think that I have been talking to the council publicly about the improvements that we're making over the last several months. You made a point about adding a handful of employees. We did that. We did that over the last 12 months. Added more employees to the department because I felt like it needed more, and we aggregated some other areas into that department in order to give them the resources that they need. Outside expertise and bringing them in, and having people that are experienced in construction management at risk, that are experienced in design build concepts and other alternative delivery methods, and having that experience bleed over into our department, will have that experience shared with our employees. And that's what we're wanting to do with this report. We're wanting to make sure that our employees can take advantage of the outside expertise that they do not have, and also provide the training that has been lacking in that department.
Okay, I want to talk about the arena now. The industry right now reviewing the request for proposals, and then based on the recommendations, the city, from what I understand, is going to, could alter it or could implement some of those recommendations, and then that's when it goes out again for companies to bid on the project. Could that open the door to firms who can recommend changes that will give them an advantage when they bid?
No, I don't understand the question.
So the industry right now is reviewing the RFP right now,
right,
and will make recommendations to the city. So could that open the door to companies making recommendations that would give them an advantage to winning the bid?
No, because during the request for proposal process, they're also given an opportunity already to give input. I think what we did is we just acknowledged that, and what we provided is an opportunity for input, and we had a conference call this last Friday that was over an hour long. We felt like we had over 50 businesses call in, firms call in, and we had a lot of good questions, a lot of good points, and we answered a lot of those questions, and we asked them to provide those to us in writing so we can answer them and provide it to over the 800 firms that we sent that proposal to.
You know, the clock is ticking for this huge project. I was looking through some of my research that I had done when covering the arena before. According to one of the city reports, if the city built the arena in 2016, it would cost $14,000 a seat. For construction costs, and then with inflation, by 2024, if the city built the arena then, it would cost $20,000 a seat. I mean, so we see the price increasing significantly, and I know you've spoken with me about what the city is doing to move this process along expeditiously. For taxpayers who say, you know, I voted for this several years ago, what do you say?
I say we're putting it in front of the project list as soon as possible. What people don't remember is that the first 3 years of the capital improvement program, the arena, the Children's Museum, or the Hispanic Culture Facility were not included in that. So we're completing the third year of that, and we're actually moving those 3 projects up. We'll be presenting to council an update in November, and we'll tell them that in the next 5-year cycle, instead of a 3-year cycle, we're going to include all those 3 projects at the front of the line. That doesn't mean that the other projects that we've been looking at throughout the city are going to be ignored. That's why we have a 5-year process that we're going to implement and recommend to the council. Okay,
the arena right now projected to be a 12,000 seat arena. We've talked about how initially when this was being considered, the project was being considered, Plan El Paso had it listed at about a $15,000 to $18,000 seat arena. I'm sorry,
right, okay.
Saying those are the seats, the number of seats you need to attract top traveling acts. That's what they want. They want, you know, they won't really consider a city that doesn't have an arena with fewer than 15,000 seats, and now we're looking at 12,000 seats. How can you reassure the public that this is an investment that will be constantly utilized throughout the year and won't just sit there empty in downtown?
Well, that's why we sent out the request for proposal the way we did, is that we want someone to submit proposals that can design, construct, and operate the facility, also that has the type of relationships necessary to seek and secure long-term tenants in the facility, as well as the relationships with the big groups like Live Nation, for big concerts that can be brought into the facility. I think secondly, the facility itself, it's going to be a state-of-the-art program. It's going to have club seating. It's going to be like no other in this region whenever it's completed. And it's also important to note, thirdly, that the reports that were submitted, they were market-based, and so they looked at 12 to 13,000 seats. I think the number was 12,750 that was presented to council in January of this year. And what we're going to do, because of this process, where we did open it up and have questions, we're probably going to increase that range from 12 to 15,000 seats, so that when we do submit the RFP, or whenever it does go out there, and with all the changes, that when we do submit that the requests that we receive, or the proposals we receive, that they'll know that we're looking at 12 to 15,000 and not maximizing it at the 13,000.
Is there a possibility that that could increase the budget beyond the $180 million?
Yes, there is. But we want to make sure that there's a range there so that we can then have the option of deciding, or the council can have that, as well as the group that's evaluating it.
You know, that may sound troubling to some viewers who are watching, who say, you know, this is the big project, and I voted for this because I got a list of what things were going to cost, and now I'm hearing that they could cost more.
Well, I think communication is very clumsy, because that's not what I said. That's not what I just said. Okay. I said that we're going to provide a range from 12 to 15,000 seats that we can get proposals on. We have not done the design. We don't have an architect on record. I think it's premature to say that it's going to be over budget. But when you ask me the question, could it be? Yeah, anything can be over budget, depending on what you put in it. I mean, we can build a house that's 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, depending on what you put in it, it's going to be what you end up paying for it. So I think that we want to be realistic with the costs, and we want to make sure that we go in eyes wide open, and then we share all that information with the public.
Okay, let's go to the phones. We have Anthony on the west side. Is that correct? Anthony on the west side, what's your comment or your question?
Jacinto Plaza has taken 3 years, and the project is smaller. What guarantee is there that the larger projects will be built on time? And why are we ordering cables from Germany for this canopy? Thank you.
Thank you very
Sorry, I
much.
didn't hear the question.
Can we repeat the question so to make sure the public hears it correctly? And
Jacinto Plaza has taken 3 years and the project is smaller. What guarantee is there that the larger projects will be built on time? And why are we ordering cables from Germany for this canopy? Thank you.
Okay.
so that was Nancy. I'm sorry, that was not Anthony from the West Side. That was Nancy saying San Jacinto Plaza has essentially been closed for 3 years. And for the public, it looks like there's been construction for that long because it's been closed for the last 3 Christmases, including this year. So what's the guarantee that the larger projects aren't going to face these difficulties, and why is the city ordering cables from Germany?
Those are very good questions. I don't know why they ordered it from Germany. I wasn't here when they did that. But I will tell you that we're living through the design of that project right now with all the different things that were in the design. So I can't specifically answer that as to why that was ordered. I think that when it is completed, it's going to be an amazing project. I can't speak though to the arena, and as far as we're doing a project that size, and what does that mean for this community? I mean, I think that that's the reason why we put the proposal together the way we did. We want the industry experts that are out there, and they're out there, that can design, construct, and manage these type of facilities. And what we're looking at probably putting out on the RFP, the request for proposal, is that it's a construction management at risk scenario in terms of the delivery method, and we think that will assure that the project comes in on time and under budget. And it's going to depend on how it's designed, what kind of revenue streams come in. I mean, there could be naming rights for the facility. Club seating could provide other revenue opportunities as well for the arena. And I think that those kinds of opportunities could add value to the project. And whether it's more seats or more technology in the facility, those kind of revenue opportunities could pay for that.
And I think at the heart of Nancy's question is, you've talked about how, you have about 80% of projects, or upwards of 80% of capital projects that are under budget or on time. But when you have the crown jewel of the city in downtown El Paso, this 100-year-old monument that's been closed for 3 years, and many times people walk downtown and there appears to be, no real progress happening, it starts to erode confidence in the city.
Well, I will tell you that there's only so much I can share because of potential litigation. But I will say to you that my experience in working with different contractors and giving them a list of what items need to get done, and then those getting done, it's taken longer in this particular case. And we have used our attorneys and outside attorneys and given those lists and asked for a plan of when will you be complete, what else do you need in order to complete it on time. We've done everything possible with this particular firm to make sure that is delivered.
There's also mutual culpability. I mean, you had some change orders from City Council well into the construction process that altered the timeline.
That does not impact the end time. I mean, I think that the project itself, the cables being ordered when they were ordered late, there was no reason why they weren't ordered on time. But I think that there's a lot of questions about that project. But I think with respect to the arena, and where we have had success, we have gleaned from the department where there's areas where we've had success and where we've outsourced the management of certain projects to companies that are experienced, that are here local. We've had tremendous success. I think with the way this RFP is designed so that we have someone from the outside come in and manage the project, that we have industry experts that manage it so that there's no confusion on how to manage and execute something like this of the magnitude and the size that we're talking about completing.
Okay, we're going to have to take a break. This has been a long first segment. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. When we come back, we're going to take more of your phone calls and emails and tweets. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's go to our phone lines. John in the Lower Valley. John, what's your comment or your question?
My question is, whatever we're allocated for and whatever year this project goes forward, is it just going to be that money? And if it goes beyond the cost, who pays for the because you delayed or the contractor delayed? Who pays for that?
Thank you so much, John. And I'm not sure if he was talking about the arena or San Jacinto Plaza, but either way, if either of those go over budget, what's the funding source for paying for those?
I think overall on all our projects, we are under by $2 million, and so I think you just simply just take some of the savings from other projects, and you're able to balance your costs, and that's the same for any projects that you would do in any city.
Okay, so you're about $2 million under in the totality of your
overall
projects.
in all our projects we're $2 million under, and so where we are over and where we're under, they balance each other out.
Okay, let's go to Joe on the east side. Joe, what's your comment or your question?
Hello, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you very much for being there. I'm just wondering, Mr. Gonzalez, and just a firm answer, what are the steps, or are there any steps for future implementation of permanent protocols or procedures, so the next time a grant by the federal government or a bond by the city or the state of Texas or monies or funds are available for major projects, that these kinds of just failures don't occur again? Are there any steps that the city are taking? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Joe saying if there are any protocols or procedures that the city can take to ensure that there are no future failures with capital projects, is what I understood from the question, and also relating to state and federal grant money.
Yeah, I think he was specifically asking about state and federal projects. Mm-hmm. I believe that in the past we've had projects that were submitted that were not ready to go to TxDOT or to the feds for approval. And what we've done is we've instituted a new program that the projects have to have the right-of-way, have to have the environmentals completed, and if there's any congestion mitigation analysis required, that gets done ahead of time before it's submitted. So we're well underway in doing that. We hired H&TB to do that in the short term. We are we also put out a request for proposal, and we've received proposals, and we're in the process of reviewing those as well to select someone for the long haul on how we review those kind of projects and before they're submitted to TxDOT or the federal highway.
Okay, this is from Manny. Mr. Gonzalez, can you name one city in Texas other than El Paso that is more invested in economic development projects with such slow and few results?
Well, I think that some projects that are long-term in nature, it takes more of an investment of time and money before you start seeing the fruits of your labor. I know that in the last 18 months, we reported that we've been able to create, as a mayor and council, and with the strong incentives that we put it together as a department, as a city, and working closely with Borderplex, been able to create over 2,500 new jobs for this area, as well as retain over 5,000 jobs. So I think those are some reports or some statistics that we can report out on. We're ranked number 3 in the nation, best managed city. That happened in March of 2015. It was based on how we put our budget together. I think we've got some statistics like that and some facts like that and some results like that that I think are very beneficial to us as a city in terms of how we market it when we try to bring in new jobs.
Okay, and this is from Carlos saying, Mr. Gonzalez, how could you accept such an enormous raise when you know the management of the city's engineering projects has been so lackluster? And this is from Carlos L.
Well, that was a market adjustment. I think it was based on what city manager paid across the state of Texas. And I know that the council alluded to a couple other border cities that are a third the size of El Paso and some of the fourth of the size of El Paso that were paid the same. So I think that I have a family and like anyone else, and I've worked hard to get to where I'm at today, and I think I'm very humbled by the council's confidence in me, and we've been working to save a lot of money this last year, and I think we've made up a difference of about $16 million. That's a lot of savings. We've not laid anyone off in the last 14, 15 months that I've been here. I think we're holding folks accountable. I mean, there might be some adjustments there, but we've been able to do that, not have to lay anyone off. In addition to that, for the first time in a very long time, we were able to put some money aside with some savings that we had to pay our employees a one-time lump sum payment of $1,000 if they were here over a year, less than $500 if they were here less than a year. Excuse me, $500 if they were here less than a year. And we're working on a plan for a raise for next year. So those are things that weren't in place that we have in place today. And we have incentives for our employees today that weren't in place before. One in particular that I'd like to talk about is the healthcare initiative. Our employees are not incorrect when they say that their costs have gone up exponentially in double digits for the last 4 or 5 years. And we put a program in place where they can earn up to $150 per month to help them with those healthcare costs.
And I think City Representative Michael No and Representative Courtney Nyland and Larry Romero and Emma Acosta and to some extent the rest of the council has really praised what you've done. But I think what concerned a lot of people, at least from what I've heard from the public, was the surprise of it all, is that it just sort of, and I remember being at that council meeting and thinking, okay, I know what my story is going to be, and then, city reps come out of executive session, and then it was like, oh, by the way, we approved a $50,000 raise for a city manager. And so I think it was sort of the sudden process that really alarmed the public.
Well, I believe when I was hired, I think the public doesn't know this, but I mean, in the contract it stipulates that the council can look at the market after a year, and they did that. So I think they were following the contract.
Okay, we have to take another commercial break. We're going to take more of your tweets and emails when we come back, and your phone calls. You're watching ABC-7 Extra. To ABC-7 Extra, we're speaking with City Manager Tommy Gonzalez. From Adrian on Twitter, does Mr. Gonzalez believe that the quality of life bond projects were estimated correctly?
I think that there are several of them that were, and I think that we have found that there's some that are off target. And certainly we've made adjustments to that. And where I've said that we've saved some money and we've been able to make up the difference, I think that's what I could tell the public, that we're looking to save where we can, and we're making up those differences everywhere we see that there's a difference. And
Mr. Chico Stick, that's his username on Twitter. Yeah, the millennials support the city manager. The direction the city is going in is awesome. Way to go. And then also from Henry, why not reject the raise and make the city the standard when it comes to well-paid service workers instead of just competitive?
What I said before, I think it's important that we do provide the appropriate incentives for our staff, and we've put that in place where we have not had them in place before. And I think that Lean Six Sigma is a good example where our employees have really stepped up, and not only have they received the training, but they've really had tremendous success with that type of training. Every time we complete a project, every employee receives a check for over $100 a piece. I know we're over $500,000 in savings with that, and we've got tremendous customer service improvement in those particular departments. And we'll be presenting more of that in November. We've got another project that we're going to submit that is saving over $500,000, just that one project.
Okay, and then also from Adrian, El Paso City Council handed Tommy its failures and they expect him to fix it. City Council is to blame, not Mr. Gonzalez. And from John, truly embarrassing. The city of this size cannot finish a project like this, speaking of San Jacinto Plaza, in addition to the dysfunction. And he's speaking about the dysfunction at City Council. There's been some media attention on this. We've reported on this. You had a city rep call another one a brat and a bully, and there was an apology the next week. But nonetheless, I mean, there's been, to say that there's been strife within the City Council, I think, is an understatement. How does that affect your job and morale?
Well, I think first of all, to some of the questions that were asked with respect to the projects themselves, I think it's staff's responsibility to execute the projects. The council's role is to provide the vision, the policy direction to the staff, and then the staff execute that. So I would say that about the council. Also, the way I would answer that question is, a lot of people ask me, or they expect that I'm a leader or that I'm going to say that. I don't think I really started learning about how to become a true leader until my wife and I started having kids. And the reason I say that is because my boys, they see everything. They have big eyes and they have big ears. And I don't mean literally. I mean they're good-looking kids because they look like their mother, of course. But you have to be an example to your kids, and they see everything. That's what I mean by big eyes and big ears. And they hear everything. And if you don't follow through with what you tell them in terms of how they should behave, how they should treat others, then they're not going to do it. And we're not providing a good example. I'm not providing a good example for them. And so I think that we're fortunate if God gives us the grace to deal with adversity and deal with the bad as well as we do with the good. I mean, anyone can look good whenever things are going well. I think the true meaning of character and grace is how you perform when you have adversity, when you have challenges. And we have a lot of challenges at the city. But what I want the public to understand and to hear and to see is that when we get a hold of a project, of a budget, of a problem that is going to be fixed, and we're going to put every effort into it, and we're not going to say we're just going to try. I mean, my wife asked me, go throw out the trash. I don't tell her I'm going to try to do it. I just need to do it. And so I think that we're proving that up, and the only way we can prove that up is with results. And I think we have results over these last 14 months. And people are going to hear more about those results in the next few months to follow.
That was a very long answer that didn't quite answer my question about the council dysfunction, but we really need to wrap up. So Mark emailing us saying, Mr. Gonzalez, I really believed in your leadership, but my confidence in you has diminished ever since I read in the newspaper that you used City Representative Larry Romero's brother to help set up your consulting firm. What do you say to Mark?
I would say that's a private matter, and I would say that whenever someone here locally has that ability to do that, and you let them set that up, I mean that's.
But how can you
that has nothing to do with the city.
But he's a brother of the city representative who made the motion to give you a $50,000 raise. I mean, I don't think saying it's a private matter is a sufficient answer.
Well, I believe it's a private matter. I mean, and I've answered the question that, I mean, someone here locally could do it and allowed that to happen.
But it's about perception and trust. I mean, you're a very intelligent person. Surely you can see how someone from the outside can look at that and say that seems fishy. Like that makes me feel uncomfortable, and that erodes my trust for the city manager.
Well, I think that's legal. I think that's ethical. I think people have their right to their opinion. I know that I've stood up in my entire career to things. The last city I was at, stood up to something that was going to cost the city a lot more money, and I stood up to that, and I was attacked for it. And so, if something's private and if it's ethical and legal, I think, and also a private matter.
Okay, before we leave, I also want to ask you, since I have you here, a lot of attention with the CIP list on the street paving with City Rep Larry Romero, some of the streets in his district getting paved when they were not on the original list. I know you said the list is fluid. I guess my question is, how could this happen? How could it be that an entire organization could not have a solid answer and say, this is what happened. This is how it got done. This is how these streets were paved. I mean, when this story was sort of surfacing, you got sort of fluid answers from people. Nobody really knew who ordered the work. How does that happen?
I thought everybody got their answers to the questions that they had, so I'm not familiar with people not getting the answers. I would say, as far as the street program in general throughout the city, that study was done in 2008. In 2012, I know the Streets Department asked for that to get updated. I was told by both two of those individuals that was rejected. And then here in 14, when I first got here, the entire council asked for that project list to get looked at again. And the other thing that was not taken into consideration is the streets that were traveled the most. I think they looked at just worst first, as opposed to in each respective district, those that get traveled the most should get the attention first, and that wasn't a part of the process, and it should have been. Finally, I would say that across the board with all city districts, I think you could have similar stories to every single one of those districts. Our intent was to simply complete a lot of the projects that each requests that were coming in from each district, what they had, and for them to see results. I mean, we have basketball court resurfacing in other districts that requested that wasn't on the list. Just different things that we made happen that were within budget that we were able to make happen for each respective district. Okay,
my director is fussing for me to get out of the show because we've run out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. You know, I always say it's always commendable when somebody comes on the program and answers questions that could sometimes be a little bit uncomfortable. So thank you so much for making yourself accessible. Sure. Really appreciate that. And thank you so much for watching ABC 7 Extra. We hope you found this informative and helpful. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.